guys, it's Aoife from Words of Clover, and I'm here today to talk about a book that I just read, and that is Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. So this book came out at the very start of March, so it is available in bookstores to buy. So Liz Nugent is one of those auto-buy authors, auto-read authors for me. I really love her books. They're always generally like a 4, like a really strong 4, sometimes a 5 stars for me. So I was really excited to read this, and this is one that has kind of been on my anticipated to read list for quite a while. Liz Nugent is an Irish author, and this book is set in Ireland, and I read it during the Irish Readathon, which is always a plus to be able to read one of your favourite authors during my favourite time of the reading year. This is about a character called, as you may have guessed it, Sally Diamond, and she is a 40-something-year-old woman who has lived with her mother and father her entire life. Her mother died when she was in her early 20s, and now she has lived with her father. Her father always joked with her that when he died, she was just to leave him out with the bins, because that's what they always did with rubbish. And when he died, he would say that his body was rubbish and she could just leave him out with the bins. And Sally is someone who takes things very literally. She doesn't have a lot of social interactions with people, so she's not very used to social cues, and she just sees the world in a slightly different way than other people. So when her father actually does die during the night in his 80s, she takes his word quite literally and she leaves his bodies out with the bins. So this obviously leads to a kind of Garda investigation, and then what comes to a media investigation as well. And during all of this, some family friends come to help Sally, and she finds letters from her father that kind of detail secrets about Sally and Sally's childhood that she had never known before. So she is suddenly, like, while she's coping with all of this extra attention, she's suddenly figuring out all these hidden secrets about her childhood that a lot of other people knew, but she never knew about herself. So this is a very character-focused book, like a lot of Liz Nugent's books. There is a small plot that you're following, but in terms of plot, it's not super like action-packed. It's not really twisty and turning. It's very subtle, and it's definitely a very character-focused book. As for the majority of the book, we're following Sally over a number of years, gets to know herself better, kind of gets to know what really went on in her childhood better, and then gets to know other people and kind of starts coming out of herself more. But then we also see some regression as well sometimes, where things happen and she takes a couple of steps back as well. And then through this as well, we're also getting kind of a different perspective at times, which is kind of like a flashback, where we are following a different character altogether, but someone who is connected in some way to Sally, and we're finding out a lot of things during this character's point of view, and that's when the story gets particularly dark and quite twisty, and that's when we start seeing and kind of figuring out where the story is going and where some of the reveals are going to happen. I think this story itself, as I said, because it's character focused as well, there's almost a little bit of like nature versus nurture aspect to the book, which I found really interesting. And it was always interesting to see Sally sometimes fight against some of her natural like instincts as who she was as a human being, and we see things come to the forefront now and again that trouble other people that Sally has to push back down, and we kind of see her try and change herself in little ways to please other people, and we kind of you sometimes wonder if she was just let be completely herself, what it would be like. I really like the parts of this where, because it wasn't it wasn't super dark or super twisty in many ways in the book. There's parts of the book when Sally is trying to become a part of the community, where she's making friends and she's putting herself out there. There are parts of this book that are really endearing, and if you didn't realize, like if you didn't know that you were reading a Liz Nugent, so it is going to get dark and it is going to get a little bit twisty, you would almost think this was like almost a contemporary book of sorts in some ways, as parts of it were endearing, parts of it were quite funny sometimes when Sally might put her foot in it or say something that shocked other people, and there are parts of this book that were quite lighthearted in certain ways, until you kind of would come back to like the origins of Sally's story, or you'd switch that other point of view where things would get really dark again, and you'd be reminded of this really dark current that was just like underneath the story as a whole. I always really enjoy how Liz Nugent kind of examines morally grey characters in many different ways in her books, and this one is no different. I think Sally is a morally grey character in many ways, as are some of the other characters that we see. We also see bits of darkness and bits of like bad temper and, I guess, ugly sides of people who are just ordinary people living in the community. This comes out in some like racism and homophobia with some characters, and then we also see other characters kind of sometimes portray some, I guess, impatience and a lack of understanding when it comes to dealing with Sally as well. The book was really fast paced as well. It was really easy to read, which I always enjoy. I kind of felt like I flew through it. I was really engrossed in like both sections of the book, both Sally's perspective and then the other point of view that we're following as well. I think both of them were really interesting. They were kind of both on, they were similar and different at the same time. I can't obviously say too much or else it would be a spoiler, but it was really interesting, and it did go back to this almost like nature versus nurture story as well, or like aspect of it as well, which I found really like just really engrossing, and I was just kind of like flipping the pages, really wanting, or I read it on my Kindle, so yeah, I was kind of digitally flipping the pages really quickly to find out what happened and how it would all end up. One of the things I think I really love about this story, but also a lot of Liz Nugent stories, but particularly I think this story, is when you're reading some other crime or thriller books, I find that sometimes even though the story itself is really good and the book is an excellent read, there are times when the story itself can be very unrealistic and you'll be like, well, this could never happen, and you know, even though I'm enjoying the story, like it's scary, but it's scary to a point where you know it will never happen, so you still feel very safe when you're reading it. With this story, I feel like there were so many elements of it that are so normal, which is what I love about Liz Nugent's writing, is that she always really grounds all of her stories in normality, in like a town that could be the town next to you, the people that you're living next door to, all of that. And I think particularly with this story, it really felt like it was something that could easily happen. You wouldn't like, it did feel very like this does feel realistic, and because of that there were some elements of it that were really scary. There is a point, this book kind of starts in 2017, and as I said, we do follow Sally over a number of years, so it does lead up to and ends around the middle of 2020. So we do see the emergence of the coronavirus and the pandemic and how that affects some of the characters and what is going on, and how it wraps up the story in a way, in a little bit as well. So yeah, there's a lot of it that it's really grounded into reality in a way, and because of that I thought the story itself had a little bit of a chilling effect that I actually really enjoyed. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought the characters were really great. The writing again is always solid. It was really fast paced, it was engaging, and yeah, I think, like as I said, it's a very character focused novel, so if you're someone who loves really action paced, real plotty books, this wouldn't be for you. But if you like things that are fast paced but still like more character focused, I think you should definitely give this one a go. You may really enjoy it. So I give it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. And if you have read it, I would love to know. If you guys have read any other Liz Nugent, I would love to know as well. Or if you have any similar book recommendations that you think I should try out, I would love you to comment below and let me know. So thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.